Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the pre-conference of the Italian Association of Political Communication. This morning and part of the afternoon will be dedicated to the theme, a European theme. Not very popular recently in Europe, maybe, but we as scholars and citizens there, we live in Europe, and next year there will be a European election, and it will be 40 years since the first European election, 1979. I remember because I was part of the study with J. Plummer and other people studying the first European election, and the book that came out was Communicating to Voters. But, you know, it sounds like the Middle Ages of political communication. It was 40 years ago after all. Anyway, today we're speaking of the present and of the future, not so much of the past. And we have this morning a row of people and guests that will be introduced by Novelli, who is in charge of the project Vote for Europe because it was financed by the European Commission. The association, AssoComPol, our association is partner in this project, and this conference this morning is also an example of what we can do together. In the afternoon there will be a seminar, more workshop kind of meeting, on more focusing on the methodologies to study the European election campaign. So we focus more on campaign, actually, rather than on political issues. With this said, I will ask Edoardo to tell us more about the project, Vote for Europe, and also to introduce the guest this morning.
Thanks, Giampiero. Thanks to all for coming. I'm very glad to open the annual conference of the Italian Association of Political Communication. As Giampiero said, this pre-conference is the first event organized by the Vote for Europe 2019 project. The project is a Erasmus Plus and Jean Monnet project founded for the period 2018-2020, and the project is led by University Roma Tre with the Department of Fine Arts and Communication. With the partner are Association of Italian Political Communication, the Dipartimento Cultura e Politiche Società of University of Turin, the European Young Press, that is an association, international association of young journalists, you can say, and from the Italian section of the Movimento Europeo Italiano. Each of these partners will organize in the next 2 years in events, and this is the first that has been organized by the association AssoComPol. The aims of Vote for Europe are mainly to promote the participation at the 2019 European election, to promote the debate and the discussion on the election campaign and the political debate, and reinforce the European citizenship, involving in these events the young citizen, of course, high-level student, young journalist, professional, and of course scholars. The specific objectives of Vote for Europe are increase the transnational knowledge of the European election campaign, because as we know, the Italians know the European election campaign that is organized in Italy, the French, the campaign there. Every citizen knows the election campaign that is going to be organized in his country, but nobody knows what is happening outside in the other 26 European countries. Then also to improve the reflection and the comprehension of the European political communication, promote the analysis and the study of the European election campaign with a multidisciplinary approach. And last but not last, our aims is to collect the electoral materials produced in the 27 European nations. And we could say that Vote for Europe is also a first step of a larger project. The idea is to create an European election monitoring center, and then we are going to organize this thanks to funding from the European Parliament. The first election campaign, as you know, took place in 1979, and many things have changed since then. First, in terms of numbers, from 6 nations involved to the actual 27, 28 in the past, now 27. From a few millions of voters to more or less 400 millions. In the political situation, in the 1979 the world was still divided in two ideological fronts. Today we are in a post-ideological world. And also regarding Europe, from a general positive feeling in favor of Europe that was prevalent at that time in the 70s and the 80s, to the actual widespread Euroscepticism. And also in the instrument of communication and campaigning, in the 1979 we were at the beginning of the mediatization of the political communication with a crucial role of television. Now we are in a new digital arena with the advent of social network, in a new phase with marked by the phenomenon of disintermediation. So many things have changed. It's not up to me to say for the better, for the worst, but these are some of the reasons why we decided to look to the next European campaign, what is going to happen, but also to have a look to the back, what has happened in the last 40 years. So we invited three speakers. Unfortunately, the members, one is missing now. Corticelli is not present because he has he's busy in Florence. Yes, he's not with us at the moment. And we invited two guests to talk about this different topic. The first one is in order is Philip Schulmeister, that is the head of public opinion monitoring unit of the European Parliament. Then the second one will be, I suppose, Ben Johansson, yes, that professor at the University of Gothenburg in media and communication and in journalism. And the final will be Kevin Rafter from Dublin, that he is full professor of political communication and head of the School of Communication. Just to warm up our discussion, we will start with a short video, because we made some interview 1 week ago in Brussels to the head of communication of 4 of the main European political group or party, and we asked to them what the idea about the next European election, the next campaign, what will be the topics, the main topics of the next election campaign, and if they have already thought about the campaign, the slogan, and so on. So I think that's all. I would like just to remind the speaker to speak in the microphone, and I will ask to the audience to register. There is a paper here that to put the name. I suppose that's all, and we can start.
So let's start.
We're working on the dimension of fighting against those who want to destroy what has been accomplished. We are not in a position. Currently, there is a serious threat, we find, to go back to nationalist solutions, which we fundamentally don't believe in. So we want our people to fight. We want our people to fight like a liberal for the values we defend.
Slogans, frankly, for me, play quite a small part in an election. What I want to see, frankly, is I want to see our candidate come up with policies that affect the daily lives of our citizens first, and then that the slogan can reflect, what our vision for the continent is, rather than coming up with a slogan first and trying to fill the policy in afterwards. So I wouldn't give huge importance to slogans. We will have one, most probably, but it's the policies, the key policies that really impact Europeans, that's where the focus of our attention is?
Look, I can show you what will be the slogan of our Congress, which will designate Franz Timmermans as our common candidate in Lisbon on the 7th and 8th of December. So it's fair, free and sustainable, the progressive Europe we want. The whole point is that we will have several fights to fight, and I understand that in 3 words you cannot capture and encapsulate everything of what our political campaign will be about. But we want a fair society. We want a society that it's free, but we want a society that is also sustainable in the context of the European Union. And this is the logic of our progressive Europe.
No, and once again, we as a political group are not organizing the campaigns of our parties, but I think it will be something like take back control for our citizens. Let's protect our sovereignty and let's stop migration in the magnitude that it is today.
Our vision for Europe is pro-European and pro-change. We rise up for a more green, more fair, more feminist, more equal, more empathetic, and more democratic union.
We have been looking at consulting with our member parties also, and to see what would be the biggest interest and also the main concern of the EU citizens. One of them is clearly the question of migration, and liberals believe that the problem or the crisis really occurs based on the fact that there is no European solution, and that the Greek, the Italian borders are also the borders of the EU. And we hope to offer or will offer a European solution to the question of asylum. A second point that is a concern for the citizens is also the rise of illiberal movements like the one by Mr. Orban, supported with advisors like Bannon, etc. So I think it is one element there where we want to offer a different solution for the EU.
The key issues that affect people in all of our member states now are quite similar. Issues around security, how we deal with the challenges of migration, of course economic considerations and growth and creating good, solid, sustainable jobs, also very important. And we have challenges around how we deal with climate change and environmental issues also. So these are, I suppose, the main areas where I think people understand that we need to cooperate, we need European solutions, we need EU solutions. And the European People's Party and our 51 member parties in every member state of the European Union, we will campaign to show why voting for our member parties, for our EPP, how we can address these key, main, significant areas for the people of this continent.
I would say that the main political issue of the next elections in 2019 will be the very future and destiny of the whole European integration project. You will have 3 main camps that will compete with each other. You will have the first one that will try to keep the things as they are, business as usual, which will be mainly represented by the EPP camps. Then you will have a second camp which is emerging and is gaining ground in different countries, in different national public opinions, which is the camp that would like to dissolve the project itself by recovering within the national boundaries the idea of old perfect society, which in fact was not existing in the past, and it's a fiction for the future. And additionally, they do not explain, after the dissolution of the European Union in itself, what would be the alternative project to create the basis of a European cooperation. And then you have the third camp, which I think we as PES represent at large, which is the camp of recovering the very ideal of the European integration project by reforming the Europe as it is today.
Well, the two main issues, I think, will be migration and the sovereignty of the member states of the European Union. This, we already have seen this during local elections or national elections the last years, where we see that these themes are going to be decisive, I think, also for the European elections.
It is impossible to pinpoint such an important election to one singular dominant issue. Europe is too diverse and our challenges are too broad. Some players seem to be putting forward a pro-European versus an anti-European battle as the main issue of these elections. But we firmly believe that this election will not be about more or less Europe, but about changing Europe. The desire and need for Europe that is less focused on profit and more on people and planet. The issue of making the European Union social and green. A second important battle is that of democracy and freedom. We must not allow Europe to transgress into authoritarianism, scapegoat politics, and declining freedoms for all those that question the status quo or do not fit to conservative norms.
As Eduardo said, we worked up the climate about, not so much about Europe, even though some of the references by the interviews are to some hot issues that will be on the table next May. But let's focus more on the works this morning about the next campaign. And the first speaker will be Philip Schulmeister. You have about 25 an hour, and the floor is yours, Philip. Thank you.